Phew, there's still so much left over. My name is James. As I looked at the convenience store ready meals that were about to be discarded, I sighed. Even though they were past their expiration date, it seemed such a waste to throw away so many meals. I knew the value of food, that's why I thought it was such a pity. By the way, I wonder how that girl is doing. While staring at the ready meals destined for the trash, I was reminded of something. My family runs a convenience store. But when I was little, I often felt bad about it. In elementary school, there were days when we didn't have school lunch and had to bring our own packed lunch. Mine was always from the convenience store. James, doesn't your family make you a packed lunch? My mom says it's a waste to throw away the unsold ready meals, so this is fine. Unsold? You mean like the ready meals that are going to be trash? That's kinda harsh of your mom, isn't it? It might be hard to imagine now, but back then, on days when we needed a packed lunch, my parents would have me take one that was meant to be discarded. Other kids might buy their lunch at a convenience store if their parents were busy, but no one else's parents sent them with a ready meal that was going to be thrown out. That's why I felt ashamed of eating those ready meals and sometimes secretly threw them away. What are you doing? That's such a waste. If you're not going to eat it, give it to me. A girl in my class once said that to me. I wonder if that girl is doing well. As I took the unsold ready meals to the trash area behind the store, I muttered to myself, "Are you going to throw away that ready meal? What a waste." Suddenly, I heard a voice from behind me. When I turned around, there was a woman without a hint of makeup, smiling at me. I wonder, who is this person? I feel like I've met her somewhere before. Excuse me, you are. Sorry for speaking to you so suddenly. I was just feeling nostalgic when I saw this convenience store still here. I used to be taken care of by the son of this place when I was little. Could it be Kayla? Her name was Kayla. She was known in school for never bringing her own packed lunch. Her lunch was either made by a teacher or she would get some side dishes from someone else in the class. Could it be James? When I called her by her name, she suddenly brightened up. That's right, James. Now I'm running this convenience store as the owner. Really? How are your mom and dad? They're doing well. Now they're taking it easy and leaving the store to me. It's nice to hear that. Everyone seems to be doing well. I'm so happy to have seen you after such a long time. I'll come by again if I have the chance. With that, she was about to leave. Hold on a sec. You came here for me, didn't you? I found myself calling out to her reflexively. Hey, you're eating 3 meals a day now, right? Yeah. Her voice was weak as she looked down, perhaps indicating something was amiss. I wonder if something happened. I thought it might be better to steer the conversation elsewhere for the moment, so I changed the subject. So, what are you up to these days? Oh, now, I'm a CEO. Pretty cool, huh? It's tough because I'm barely paying myself a salary due to the red ink. But hey, wait, Kayla, you're a CEO. Yep, that's right. Started last year, I set up my own web design firm. Now I'm employing some friends who are web designers, and we're really trying to make it work. Wow, that's impressive, being a CEO and all. It's no joke, she said, pulling a business card from her bag and showing it to me. There it was, her name with the title CEO beside the company name. You've come a long way despite the hard times at home. I couldn't help but admire how far she'd come. Yeah, after my dad got sick and couldn't work much, and we couldn't even afford lunches, life was tough. If only Mom hadn't blown our money on slots, we might have had some breathing room. That brings back memories. The days of bringing packed lunch to school. I used to bring her share as well. This lunch is so good. Seeing her smile as she said that made me gradually stop resenting the discarded lunches my parents sent me with. I believe they had the sentiment of not wanting to waste, which is why they gave me those lunches. From a hygiene and business standpoint, it wasn't praiseworthy, and of course, now, taking home discarded food is not allowed. Those meals are past the sell-by date, set to prevent food poisoning. You can't just hand out discarded meals lightly. Back in my elementary school days, regulations were more relaxed, and bringing such meals to school wasn't an issue. Doing the same today would probably cause a stir at the school. Are your mom and dad doing okay? Suddenly, I found myself concerned about her family situation. I remember her father being frail and unable to work, but doing what he could around the house. The problem was her mother. She rarely took care of the kids, always off playing slots, as I'd often heard Kayla complain. I'd been to her house in public housing, and it was always her dad who welcomed me. I never saw her mom. I do catch up with dad now and then, she answered in a somber tone. Her words easily led me to imagine that she'd had her share of trouble since then. Why did you come here? I'm not sure. I didn't particularly want to see anyone or anything. Her voice trembled slightly. Could you wait for just a bit? I think I can make some time to talk, maybe 10 minutes. After that, I decided to take Kayla to the back and listen to her story. Really sorry to bother you during work hours. Actually, my mom started showing up at my company recently. In the back, she began to speak in bits and pieces. Her mother had left home without a word when Kayla was in middle school. There had been no contact since then, and just as she'd almost forgotten, her mom showed up unexpectedly in front of her company. I asked her where she'd been all this time in a panic. Then she tells me to sign for a loan for her and to support her. That's rough. Of course, I refused, but since then she's been showing up every day. I just don't know what to do. I found myself groaning at her words. This wasn't going to be an easy problem to fix. Did you talk to the police? They said since there's no criminal activity, they can't really do anything. I see. I fell silent at her response. I wanted to help her somehow, but it seemed like there was nothing I could do. That's why I came to ask for a favor. A favor? I started to think if there was anything I could do. Would you mind watching over me while I drive my mother away? What? I could understand her wanting to drive her mother away, but why did I need to be there? I mean, I don't think you need me for that. I just need some courage. That's why I want you by my side. She clasped her hands tightly and looked down. Seeing her like that, I couldn't help but say, "All right, if just being there helps, I'll do it." "Thank you." Her face lit up with a smile. That smile made my heart skip a beat. A few days later, I was standing in front of her house. Though we were both in our early 30s, she owned a whole building, using it as both her home and office. I knew she had gone to a reasonably well-known university after graduating from a local high school, but I never imagined she would become such an accomplished woman. Yet here she was, her hard-earned present being threatened by her own mother. She was trying to change that situation with her own hands. "Look, that's my mother." She pointed towards a female figure in front of the building. There indeed was an elderly woman who bore a slight resemblance to her. "Please, stay here." With that, she approached the woman. Then the woman, with a grin on her face, said something unbelievable. "Today's the day you'll pay me my living expenses, Kayla. You do have a duty to take care of me, don't you? You're my daughter, after all. Come on, because of you, Kayla couldn't even bring a packed lunch to school, and now you expect her to take care of you. What's that about?" As my inner voice grew louder, I heard her speak. "I'm sorry, but I don't consider you my parent anymore. Please, stop following me around." "Oh, you think you can say that to me? I could always ask someone scarier than me to come ask you." Seeing the woman's sly grin sent a chill down my spine. But Kayla stood her ground and retorted, "I'm not the child anymore, the one you stole Dad's money from. I'm an independent adult now, so I'd appreciate it if you'd stop involving yourself in my life. I've already consulted a lawyer about this, and I'm well aware of where you've been borrowing money from. I could easily tell the debt collectors where you are." "What? You're threatening me?" The mother raised her voice in anger, but Kayla continued, This is a proposal. If you stay away from me, you can live peacefully. What do you say? She held her mother's gaze and went on. I've also met a few people who say you've run off with their money. Would you like me to tell them where you are to? How did you get that kind of information? I'm not just a child who obeys you anymore. Don't underestimate me. What? You're getting too big for your boots. Her mother glared at her and spat out those words. But thinking better of it, she quickly left the scene. She had won. The moment I saw that scene, I was certain of it. But in the next instant, for some reason, her mother turned around and swung her arm high. Her eyes widened. At that moment, my body moved on its own. I grabbed the arm that was about to slap her cheek and glared at her mother. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Just a friend of hers. Go ahead, hate her if you want, but I'll be calling the cops then. Okay. Och, do whatever you want. Her mother shook off my hand and fled the scene as if running away. Kayla, are you all right? I rushed over to Kayla, who was behind me. She stood there dumbfounded. Yeah, I'm fine. And she gave me a deflated reply. Afterward, she took me to a nearby restaurant. She wanted to treat me to a meal as a thank you. I never thought I'd be protected by you. Sorry, I just acted without thinking. No, I'm just thinking. This is the second time you've protected me. Was there another time before? Yeah, I was so embarrassed that I couldn't bring a packed lunch to school. But then you started bringing an extra lunch for me, and I was truly grateful. I didn't have to rely on teachers or anyone else anymore. Really, I was so thankful to you back then, James. Nah, I just did what I could. Yeah, you always said that whenever I thanked you. Remembering those words, that's why I was able to stand up to my mom today. Kayla, I never imagined that the lunches I shared with her back then gave her such courage. Hey, do you think we could meet up once in a while? I feel like I could become stronger if I'm around you. Of course, I'm there for you anytime. I smiled in response to her words. And there's one more thing I want to ask you. What is it? At my workplace, we've been passing on food that people have at home, stuff that's close to expiration, to a kid's kitchen run by an acquaintance. If you could. Yeah, of course, I'll help. I've got things like instant noodles and ready-to-eat meals stocked up. I'll ask my folks about it when I get home. Maybe even talk to the deli about it. Really, that'd make me so happy. Throwing away leftovers is a waste, not just in terms of effort, but money for the store too. Personally, I hate waste, because, you know, it's just too wasteful, right? We inadvertently looked at each other and laughed. That evening, when I got home and told my parents about Kayla, my mom said, "That girl has really grown up, becoming quite the businesswoman now." It does feel pretty good. They both remember the lunch issue from when I was in elementary school. Our family store being independently owned and all, it's always been hard to just throw away food. We were never giving out food that was days old or anything. My parents seemed pleased as they talked. I think Kayla understands better than anyone the pain of not being able to eat. That's probably why she started doing what she does. I want to help too. I was thinking of using our store as a collection point to gather food from neighbors that they can't finish and donate it. That's a nice idea, as long as it's unopened and can be stored at room temperature, I guess. She's really turned out to be a responsible young woman. Bring her over again sometime. I will. We've got some meetings and stuff to discuss anyway. Later, Kayla showed up all dolled up and in a sharp suit, and she bowed deeply to my parents saying, "Thank you so much for everything. Wow, you've turned into such a beautiful young lady. We're delighted. I grew up on the meals from here, so it's probably thanks to that. My dad sends his regards to you too. How is your father doing? He's been able to get out more on my days off recently. Someday, he wants to come over and thank you properly," Kayla said while handing over a box of pastries to my mom. And just like that, our family reconnected with her after several decades. A few times a week, we deliver food collected from neighbors, and the support for the children's diner was greatly appreciated by the working moms holding down the fort at home. One day, Kayla said with deep emotion, "The reason I want to contribute to the children and their mothers is that you and your family helped me out back then. I'm so glad to be able to support families where the moms are working hard to help reduce the number of kids going hungry." I gently hugged her shoulder as she spoke, a hint of her past struggles in her voice. Our efforts were later featured in the news as a contribution to the community, and eventually, we were both honored by the local government. Now we are working hard together to establish a food bank. We've made a pact to deliver smiles to the children who are suffering from hunger. That's the promise we've made to each other.